What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. We got our last Big 12 prediction of the week in a game that is definitely going to be flying under everyone's radar. Probably not a lot of people going to be talking about this one, but you may not have realized it. One of these two teams here is sitting at 4-1 in the Big 12, and no, it is not the Kansas Jayhawks. They have to go on the road to play the Iowa State Cyclones, and believe it or not, there are Big 12 title implications with this game. Kansas, of course, coming off the big upset win against Oklahoma, and Iowa State has continued to find ways to win. This is a really big test for them. We're going to talk about all that and more coming up in this video. But before we do, I got to say thank you for the support the channel has seen as of late. It does mean a lot to me. And if you want to continue to help show your support, hey, subscribe. That's the biggest way to help support me, and ring the bell so you know when videos get uploaded. But there are more ways to support the channel. Another huge way is just simply by watching the video. It's what you guys are already doing. You can also like, comment, share, and anything else you guys may be willing and or able to do to help me support my channel does mean a lot to me. I've already previewed two big matchups that are happening in the Big 12 Conference this week between 4-1 teams. That's Kansas State against Texas, and then the rivalry in Stillwater, Bedlam, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. This one, though, a lot of people are, going to be tuned into those first two games, and rightfully so, but this one has some implications as well. Iowa State and Kansas both still very much alive to get to a Big 12 title, and this game may go a long way in deciding it, especially for one Iowa State, who right now is one of the 5 4-1 teams in conference play in the Big 12. Let's take a look at the stats both these teams have put up so far this year. And again, when you take a look at the statistics, especially when you compare offensively, it's kind of a mismatch on paper in both senses, right? So when you take a look offensively at what the Kansas Jayhawks have done, it's by far and away superior than what the Iowa State Cyclones have done. However, when you take a look defensively, the Cyclones are far superior to that of the Kansas Jayhawks. Again, both of those things in most aspects. But let's talk pretty quickly here about this Kansas offense. We all know the storyline with Jalen Daniels. Really, really good explosive playmaker. And when he's healthy, he's the starter of this team. 705 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's been battling some back problems and has been out for quite some time now. And Jason Bean has been the guy taking the helm. And you know what? If you have not been a guy that's really paid attention to Jason Bean's career, he was a transfer when he came in a couple years ago to this Kansas program, and he's really started to show that he is legit. Well, we're going to talk more about that later, but he is a tried and true playmaker. Even though he may not be as efficient as Jalen Daniels, this kid is still really, really darn good. 1,131 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 4 picks. Is able to use the legs there as well. He's averaging over 5 yards, or I should say he's averaging exactly 5 yards per carry with a rushing touchdown for Jason Bean this season. He's got a lot of playmakers around him, especially in the backfield with Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw. I believe one of those two guys is banged up a little bit here, but looking like both may end up playing in this game here against the Iowa State Cyclones. You do have some good wide receivers out there. Lawrence Arnold, Mason Fairchild, Quentin Skinner, among some other names there as well. This is an offense that is pretty good on third down, doesn't turn the football over a whole lot, and the offensive line does a pretty solid job. But when you take a look over at this defense, it definitely was the question mark coming into the season for the Kansas Jayhawks, and it was the question mark of the season last year. They had a very hard time defending the perimeter. However, they were able to do it somewhat successfully against Oklahoma and be able to come away with that upset win. Now, talking about all of that, it still was a problem for them to be able to defend Oklahoma outside the numbers there, especially when Oklahoma went and scored 3 straight touchdowns. It was a product of Kansas's defense being able to force some turnovers, create pressure to Dillon Gabriel. That's what helped this Kansas defense win them the game. They're going to need to do similar things here against the Iowa State Cyclones, but overall this defense is just looking for improvement this week as well. 28 points per game, 400 yards per game over those 2 marks. You got to be able to hone in here and improve those skills. But again, if you're able to force turnovers, if you're able to get pressure back here to Rocco Becht, you're going to have a pretty good day defensively if you are Kansas. Iowa State obviously does not want that, and this is the team that doesn't turn the football over. Only 7 turnovers in 8 games and only 6 sacks in 8 games. Rocco Becht has only been sacked 5 times. However, 6 of those 7 turnovers have been interceptions, and this Kansas defense on the year does have 8 picks. So Rocco Becht's going to have to be able to make some smarter decisions here in this game, as this is an offense that sits towards the bottom of the Big 12 Conference, and I kind of chalk that up to just inexperience. And you had a lot of guys who were wrapped up with the whole gambling thing end up being suspended. That included Jarrell Brock, Hunter Deckers, the two guys that were coming back to this program that were going to be really good playmakers, and now it's just a lot younger of a group. They do have a lot of experience out there on the wide receiver end, at least in terms of when you compare them to all the other positions that this Iowa State offense has. You got guys like Jaden Higgins. You also have a guy in Jalen Noel, two really good options. And then how about the freshman tight end Ben Bramer coming in, playing really, really well. Daniel Jackson's a nice piece out there as well. As far as this rushing attack, Eli Sanders has done some good things. Cartavius Norton has done some good things, and then Abu Sama has been in here and there as well. So when I take a look at this Iowa State offense, yes, it is young, but there is a lot of upside. However, it has not been the star of this team. It has not been the story of this team, I should say. The story of this team is this Iowa State defense, especially with what they're able to do with generating pressure, 1.75 sacks per game, and forcing turnovers specifically through their secondary. They have 13 interceptions on the year. Jason Bean's got to be especially careful here in this game. And you chalk that up to the play of just some of these phenomenal Iowa State defensive backs. Bo Fraylers, their leading tackler, does have 3 picks. Jeremiah Cooper, tied for the team lead with 6 passes defended there with TJ Tampa. Cooper has 5 picks. Tampa has 2. And then you take a look there at a guy by the name of Malik Verdon. He also has 2 picks this year. This is an absolute ball-hawking secondary, and this is the Kansas passing attack that has to be wary. Oh, it's also a pretty good run defense as well. So that rushing duo there of Neal and Highshaw, definitely going to have to be wary here. This is a pretty good Iowa State defense that can beat you in several ways, and it'll force turnovers very nicely as well. Let's take a look here at my what to watch for keys to the game. Just some things I think you should keep an eye on when you're paying attention to this one. We will start with the road team. That's the Kansas Jayhawks. And guys, Jason Bean is legit. And if you don't believe it after last week, I guarantee you're going to believe it after this week. It doesn't sound like Jalen Daniels is still, it sounds like Jalen Daniels is still out. Sounds like he's still trying to nurse through some things. So it will be Jason Bean's team yet again this week. At least that's the way it is trending as of right now. What he proved against Oklahoma last week proves this guy is legit. I've always thought he's been a pretty good quarterback. Obviously, I think this team is more efficient when Jalen Daniels is at the helm. He's just a more dynamic playmaker than Jason Bean. But do not be fooled. This Jason Bean kid is legit, and he's going to further prove it this Saturday. I think Jason Bean is going to have a very, very good game. I know this is an Iowa State defense that's put up some really good numbers, but if he's able to not throw picks, and if he's able to not force throws, just play some smart football, Jason Bean is going to have a heck of a day this upcoming Saturday in Ames. But besides that, I mean, when you take a look at what I'm predicting, what I'm feeling, this Cyclone defense is going to be tough to navigate. It's going to be really tough for a Kansas offense that likes those quick passes, that likes the quick plays, that likes to methodically move down the field, and then when you least expect it, boom, it hits you with the big play. Highshaw and Neal in the backfield are going to have a tough time running against this Iowa State defensive front, I feel. And again, if Jason Bean is not on his A game, this is a Cyclone secondary that's going to force you to throw some interceptions a time or two. So you got to be very wary. You got to be very careful. This is a very good Cyclone defense. Speaking of defense, the defense for the Jayhawks cannot collapse. It had its good and bad moments here against the Oklahoma Sooners, but the offense was able to do enough to help them pull out the win. This is a very, very young Iowa State offense. You need to make this inexperienced side feel the pressure. This is the biggest test for Iowa State since playing the Oklahoma Sooners. Kansas was just able to beat them, and even though Vegas and the FPIs, we'll see later, might not agree with me, Kansas definitely feels like they have the momentum. They're playing some really good football. You cannot set yourself up for a letdown in this game. But that's exactly what the Cyclones are going to try to do. But again, just some very simple questions for this offense. Can the young playmakers step up? They've been pretty solid throughout the season so far. But can guys like Rocco Becht, can guys like Sanders, can guys like Higgins, can all of these young players, the freshman tight end Ben Bramer, among many, many other weapons, can they step up? Can they act like veterans? Can they lead this team to do really, really good things offensively. Haven't seen it on a good, consistent basis all year for the Iowa State Cyclones. Can the young playmakers step up? Can they make the big plays? That's going to be a huge question mark here. If this young, inexperienced talent that has shown good moments this year, if they can play a full 60 minutes and keep up with the explosiveness that the Kansas Jayhawks see on the offensive side. I guess the big question is, this Iowa State team finds themselves down 14. The defense is good enough to play them back into the game. Will the offense be good enough to play them back into the game? That's the question I have. The secondary is going to have a tough time slowing down Bean and all of these really, really good Kansas wide receivers. However, it is going to force turnovers. Just the way that this season has trended, Jason Bean probably going to throw at least one pick here in this game. It's back on this offense now to capitalize, to be able to really be able to make Kansas feel the hurt of those turnovers, because this secondary is too good. It's too ball hawking. It's too, I don't necessarily want to say the word elite, but it definitely feels that way. It's got a lot of elite playmakers. It's got a lot of guys who have very, very good ball skills. This is a Kansas offense that's going to need to be able to get past that, but the secondary is definitely going to step up and have some good moments for Iowa State this upcoming Saturday. As I've mentioned many times before, this is the first test for Iowa State since Oklahoma. Believe they've played Cincinnati and Baylor since then. And have performed really, really well. So this is a Cyclone team that's going to need to step up. What have you learned since your last test? They've built some momentum here. They're sitting at 4-1 in a Big 12 play, feeling pretty good. You got a lot of tough games coming up. It starts out with this one. Both teams feel like they have all the momentum with them. I just think the Kansas Jayhawks have a little bit more. Vegas and the FBI both like Iowa State in this game, and I'm going to respectfully disagree with both of those. I think just the explosiveness and the playmaking talent, no matter who's at quarterback for Kansas, will be too much, while the Iowa State Cyclones are going to force some defensive stops. Maybe they force a turnover or two. I like Jason Bean. I like this Kansas offense, and I think that they will do too much. This Iowa State offense won't be able to keep up, and Kansas will go on the road, get a big-time win, play themselves back thoroughly into Big 12 championship mix. That's going to do it here for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See you guys tomorrow with some more game predictions, hopefully. Goodbye.